Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes, previewing Auburn's road trip to Southern Cal. Auburn coming off a disappointing loss to Memphis last week. Blake, what are we thinking about this one?
Yeah, of course, Auburn beat Georgia State on Wednesday. We're recording this on Thursday. Another one of those kind of games where it's the same things for Auburn, and I know there's probably some Auburn fans that get tired of hearing us say it, but what else do we say? Um, if you're just looking at some of the things, yes, this is a 9-1 team, and you're not going to discount anything really about a 9-1 team, but even against Georgia State, right? They go 3 of 12 from three, 19 of 30 from the free throw line, 63%. Those are the two areas that continue to kind of stand out for me in terms of if you're looking at this Auburn team and you're just trying to figure out when they play these kind of big games, what are a couple of those things that are still a little glaring in terms of what can be an issue. And I still think, as we said this going into the season, I think offensively, this is a team that's a work in progress. And I think especially, I don't think this is going to at any point be an elite 3-point shooting team. They're 334th nationally now in that area, but it is an elite defensive team. And I think that can give them a chance to win pretty much every game they play in, just because they can be so good on that side. Of course, they're going to force some turnovers, but they've been really good defending in a lot of areas so far this season. And I think that's still kind of what you look at with this team, just knowing that they have some older guys that have played together. They have some experience, but it's just you always kind of have it in the back of your mind now, which is not we're not. I don't feel like we're not used to saying that with a Bruce Pearl team, but you kind of have that in the back of your mind offensively about can they ever really get over that hump? And I think we'll see because they've got a couple interesting games coming up here back to back. It's Pac-12 foes in USC and Washington.
Yeah, the issues for Auburn, the stat sheet just screams at you on these. 3-point percentage, Auburn 28%. That's 334th nationally, according to KenPom. 66% from the foul line. That is 301st. This is just a team that just does not have, and this is a high bar, but it's not Bruce Pearl's Final Four team where you had Harper and those guys just hitting three after three. I just don't think this team is built that way, and it is going to have to win on the defensive end, which I've got some good news for Auburn fans there in a minute. But I think the issues that we saw with Auburn in some ways to end the season it's undoing. You're seeing some similar things here early.
Yeah, and I think that's just a lot of those things because again, it's kind of. And I don't know it's that unexpected. Like I said, we said it coming to the season, and boy, we all know we're not right about everything. And I'm not saying we're right in this regard, but like we had some of the hesitations I think with them, just about looking at them offensively and trying to figure out where some of that steady production was going to come from. I think especially just in shooting the ball. But it's I think you factor that into the mix, and you're still I think trying to figure that out. Like for Auburn, it's just what I mean. You look at the stats. I've got to pull their individual stats up here, but I think you're still looking at kind of the mixing and matching of a Wendell Green. Of course, Broom. We know he can score some points. Just I think he can help out obviously with their offensive rebounding too, and that's I mean look he's also helping in the block shot category, which is something we talked about a lot. Some of Bruce Pearl's best teams have really just been able to block shots, and this team is doing that too. But I still wonder, long term, kind of, offensively, can they hit that next gear? Because I think we've seen some of those teams in the past that have done that, right? And it's just
Yeah.
different because I think last season we had some of the same questions last season. I think even with the Jabari Smith, and Walker Kessler there, I just think they made it so much easier from a defensive standpoint because a lot of things they could do. And of course, Jabari Smith was just kind of that takeover type guy that you felt like could do that at any time, and I don't know that you have one of those on this team, but it's not necessary all the time, right? Like sometimes you just need a good group that is balanced scoring wise. And I think this is kind of what this team's going to be. But I say all that, and like I don't want to come across as like we're just being totally negative or down on Auburn because they are 9-1. They've only lost one game to a really good Memphis team, but this is why we're talking about this going into this USC game because it's a road game against a team that quite honestly I think Auburn's better than, and it's just you wonder, when you go on these kind of games, this is Auburn's first true road game of the season. Um, it's do some of those issues kind of pop up, but hey, defense travels, and I would fully expect that to be the case for Auburn in this game.
Well, here's one other issue with Auburn before we flip to the other side and talk some about USC too. Sepp Jasper was going to be their starting point guard because he just took care of the ball better. He's got a 0.7 assist to turnover ratio so far. I mean, that is nothing like what we expected. So anyway, there's that.
By the way, something
Before we
else
talk-
we didn't mention.
Sure.
Katie Johnson didn't play. Bruce Pearl said it was a coach's decision, and something internal, and that he would anticipate it only being one game, and then they'll get him back. So to me, that means I think we're under the assumption he'll play against USC, but I don't know that that's definitive, maybe to this point. But that's something else to keep an eye on here too when you look at kind of how this matchup could play out.
Predict sports better than the crowd for a chance to win NFTs. With Stakes, players can forever cement their sports predictions against friends, other fans, and influencers. Don't let your sports genius go overlooked. Join Stakes and have the best predictions captured in the moment. Go to playwithstakes.com/14. Use our invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. Okay, Auburn is number 10 in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency. Some things that stand out: Auburn number 2 in the country in block percentage, doing phenomenally well in terms of preventing field goals, 13th in 3-point defense, 28th in 2-point defense percentage. But the thing that stands out to me, and I've called these guys underrated for a while, you look at blocks per 70 possessions. Dylan Cardwell's over 6. We talked about Johnny Broome, the transfer from Morehead State. He's just under that. You got 2 guys on the back end that can erase a lot of mistakes, and it's hard to find a lot of teams that have got 2 guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, like we said before, I mean, it's, his best teams have been teams that can block shots, and that's always, I think, a part of their defensive numbers. Why they can be as good as they are is just they impact shots in so many different ways, and when you have that ability, it just, you don't have to guard to perfection. If you just have guys that once you get past them, sometimes you just got guys sitting there waiting and ready to block a shot. But I mean, look, Auburn's got, like I said, they've got good length, they've got great athleticism. And with guys like that, like you said, Broome has been a huge help in that regard of being able to block shots. I just think that they're always going to be a challenge, and that's, like I said earlier, I think that's all Auburn's always going to have a chance to win every game they play, because I just think they can be good enough defensively. They're going to force some turnovers. We know that just with how they play, and I think that's where, when this game you look at it, I mean, USC is kind of, they had that overtime game against Tennessee, which we said, I mean, Tennessee is one of the, maybe the best defensive team in the country. That's an overtime game. They lose a close game to Wisconsin, which, oh, by the way, there's another team that plays defense, right?
Yeah.
So I think you've got kind of some similar matchups here in terms of when you look at it from this standpoint. The thing is, USC's got some size. I think we always talk about that with them, because pretty much, I mean, look, they're gonna, even their guards are big, and they're gonna sport some guys out there that are, like a Morgan who's 6'11", and those kind of guys. So I think when you look at it there, it's still, though, even with the size, it's still a guard driven team for USC, and Boogie Ellis and all those guys, names we've heard, of course. Those are going to kind of be, he's going to be the driving force still, I think, for this team. But then you look at Peterson and Dixon Waters and those guys too. Like, it's a group that I think will give them some challenges in terms of Auburn defensively. But I don't know. I still maybe give Auburn a little bit of an edge here, just because I think that, we have seen USC against some of these top defenses, and from an efficiency standpoint, it wasn't the most efficient performances in those games against, a Tennessee or Wisconsin.
Before we give picks, a quick word from BROTHROW. Betting $11 to win $10 stinks. BROTHROW lets you bet in all 50 states, and you can bet $10 to win $10 with BROTHROW. It's not the house, so bettors have a fair chance of winning. It is the only sports platform that doesn't take a cut of every bet. No minimum deposits, no minimum bets, no need to connect your bank account. Bettors pay each other directly. There's a hassle-free sign-up process that lets you get in the action in seconds. Go to brothrow.com/SE14. Join our community bettors that we're just getting set up and help out those who help the show. Okay, let's see. We've got, in terms of computers, we're doing this Thursday morning, so we don't have a line. And Bork Torvik has got Auburn winning this one 69-68. Ken Palm has this as Auburn favored by 3. Auburn has won. Let's see. It's beaten Bradley. It's beaten Northwestern on a neutral floor. It lost to to Memphis, on a neutral floor. This is the first true road game Auburn has played. Southern Cal at home has lost to Florida Gulf Coast, Andy Enfield's old team. Lost a couple on a neutral floor and has won 3 straight at home. Actually, that's 6 straight, but really hasn't played a team at home of Auburn's caliber. How are we feeling about this one?
Don't have a great lean one way or the other here because I think it's, first true road game for Auburn. We talked about some of the offensive hesitations. Katie Johnson's availability, I think, is important here. If he doesn't play, I think that number gets a little bit closer maybe towards USC. But maybe I'm just being stubborn, but I'm going to keep going with Auburn here. I think defensively they probably find a way to get enough stops. And like I said earlier, I think they're the more well-rounded team, even, like we said, with some of the things we're pointing out. But I think we point some of these things out because we watch as many games as we do.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at it from the outside, I think you still look at Auburn and see a team that has good upside, just maybe doesn't have the upside of what we had, what we saw from them last year. It's just a different team with a different makeup. But I think they probably find enough defense here to beat a USC team that has not been, like I said, I know they put up some points against some of these teams, but like we mentioned, if you look at kind of some of the comparisons to a Tennessee, Wisconsin, 2 teams that defend really well, the offenses were not that efficient. Now, look, those are neutral court. Atlanta's kind of a different setup, right? So you can factor that in too. But I still think Auburn can do some things that can give them a chance to win this game. And so I'll pick them here, but like I mentioned, I just the hesitations. It's not unlike a team like Tennessee right now when we talk about kind of the offense and still trying to figure out what you're going to get from them on a night in, night out basis. But I'll give Auburn a slight advantage here in this one.
I'll go with Auburn too. I think defense gets it done. I think at some point they're bound to shoot a little better just because. So we'll ride with that, see how it goes for the Tigers in their first road game. We are going to be previewing all key SEC basketball games this year. We have previewed all football games involving SEC teams this year, and we've done it for bowl season too. Best way to get all those, hit that subscribe button and enable notifications so you don't miss it when we do a live stream. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, and we'll see you again soon.